I live in an old apartment that I inherited from my grandfather. In the living room, there's an old telephone. It's been disconnected for years. The wires are cut, dead. But I never moved it. It just sits there in the corner, covered in dust, like a piece of furniture nobody uses anymore. That night, it rang. I stared at it for a long time, unable to believe what I was hearing. Where was the sound coming from? The line was dead. For a second I thought it was a dream, a hallucination, maybe even a memory from childhood. But the ringing wouldn't stop. I picked up the receiver, and I heard my own voice, not like an echo, not like a recording. It was my voice, but I wasn't the one speaking. It begged me not to leave the house the next day. I stood frozen in the middle of the room. When I finally hung up, the silence was so heavy, I could hear water moving through the pipes. The next morning, I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination. But I still went out. And that's when I almost got hit by a car. It sped past me, close enough that I felt the air shift against my body. That evening, the phone rang again. I didn't want to answer, but I did. This time, all I heard was my own heavy breathing on the other end. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't a dream. It was me. I checked everything. The phone line had been officially disconnected 5 years ago. There was no way it could work. But the calls kept coming. In the apartment, I found an old notebook that belonged to the previous owner. In it, he had written about the same phone calls. At first, they warned him of small misfortunes, but then they stopped giving him a way out. One page read, "They called even when I don't want to listen anymore." That evening, the phone rang again. And this time, I didn't just hear myself. There was a woman's voice, cold, unfamiliar. And she said, "You can't change anything anymore." The calls became constant, and I started using them. I avoided accidents, warned people, saved lives. For the first time, I felt like I had power over the future. But with every call, the voice on the other end grew darker, angrier, until one day, it didn't sound like me anymore. It said, "You have to pay for every life you save." I didn't understand what that meant, not until I heard my own scream on the other end of the line. And then the voice whispered, "You're saving them, but you're killing me." That's when I realized the truth. The calls weren't coming from my future. They were coming from another version of me. Every choice I made was destroying his life. Every life I saved was a death sentence for him. And the more I picked up the phone, the more voices I heard. Not just one. Dozens of me, screaming, pleading, demanding. The phone rang without pause. I tore the wires out of the wall. But it didn't stop. And then, silence. For days, the phone didn't ring. I thought it was over. Until I found an old tape recorder hidden in the apartment, still connected to the phone line. The cassette inside was running, looping endlessly. On the recording, I heard my own voice, whispering the same phrase again and again. "It's not me calling. It's him." A week passed. No calls. I thought it was over. Then the phone rang again. But it wasn't the same sound. It was dull, metallic, like something knocking on the inside of the line. I picked up the receiver. And there was no voice, just whispers. Thousands of them, overlapping, speaking one phrase over and over again. "You're not where you're supposed to be." I shouted into the phone. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" And then I heard laughter, my own laughter, but twisted, like someone who had forgotten what being human feels like. I kept digging. Old building documents mentioned a mirrored floor plan, same apartment number, different entrance. I went there. No one answered the door, but through a crack, I saw it. The same phone, dusty, untouched, except for fresh fingerprints on the receiver. Then I heard it ring, not in my apartment, in this one. I traced the wires again. They didn't lead to the basement. They went into the walls, like they weren't meant to connect with the outside world, but with something else. I found an old cassette player hooked to one of the wires. The tape was still turning, endless. This time it wasn't my voice. It was a man, desperate, pleading. "Don't dig deeper. Please, you're making it worse." But I had to know. I stripped a wire open and touched it directly. For a second I saw them. Dozens of versions of me. All watching. All waiting. That night the phone rang again. The one I threw away. It was sitting on my desk. Black, heavy, waiting. I answered. There was only one word on the other end. "Now." And right then, I heard a second phone ringing. Behind me. It's not just warnings. It's not just alternate timelines. It's a web, a system, a trap. Someone's pulling the strings. When I answered the phone for the last time, I didn't hear a voice. I heard silence, and behind it, a heartbeat. Mine. And then a voice. Not mine, not any version of me. It whispered, "You're not the one receiving the calls anymore. You're the call." The whispers grow louder even without the phone. He begins to hear them from the walls, the pipes, even the air vents. Each whisper is a warning about something he hasn't done yet. Hook. He finds his own handwriting scratched on the inside of a wall panel. Stop listening.